Last week I said Israel's attack on Iran was so effective, so dramatic, so surprising, and so sudden that it marked the most important geopolitical change in the region in a generation. Now, maybe I was too effusive, too excited by the early results to knock out the top leadership of the Iranian military, including the Republican Guard Corps. The fact that the nuclear sites were damaged or destroyed. But as the days go by, I'm more and more convinced of that. It is true that they've managed to lob dozens of ballistic missiles at Israel, and Israel has not knocked them all down. And casualties, there's 40 is the latest number I've seen dead, and almost 600 wounded. That's not nothing. But compared to the annihilation that was in the imagination of so many in the West for so long, it really feels miraculous, and it gives me a feeling of hope that things can be reordered in that region. But that's just me. I don't have any deep sources. I get my information the same way you do, through the internet. I don't have people in the military in any country that I can call for deep insight. So when I need that insight, when I need an expert on the Middle East, I know who to go to. His name is Dr. Daniel Pipes. He is the founder of the Middle East Forum, and I'm delighted to say he joins us now via Skype from Washington, D.C. Dr. Pipes, great to see you again.
Great to see you, Ezra.
I really think this is more important than just another battle. I really feel like for a generation, Iran has been ascendant as a regional superpower. Obama really helped kickstart it, and it just, as it was left alone, it grew in power and ambition, and it was like a balloon was popped. That's how it looks and feels to me. Am I wrong?
No, not at all. There are generally understood to be three levels of military power. At the top are the weapons of mass destruction, nuclear, biological, chemical. In the middle is conventional, ships, planes, and tanks. And at the bottom is irregular, guerrilla warfare, terrorism, and the like. Throughout the region, with the slight exception of Turkey, the states of the Middle East have given up on conventional power. Iran in particular. It has an air force that dates to the 1970s. It was building, or is building, nuclear weapons. It had a very large network of saboteurs and terrorists, jihadis. And what the Israelis have is that conventional force, huge conventional force, F-35s, real ships, ordnance, and the like. And what we're seeing is that the absence of conventional warfare cannot be made up for by having Hezbollah and Hamas and building a nuclear project. You can't survive. Well, your program and your military can't survive if you don't have the conventional. And as in 1967, so in 2025, the Israelis have a superlative conventional force that is just in a different league, different order of magnitude from its enemies, whether it be the Egyptians then or the Iranians today.
Today at the G7 in my home province of Alberta, Donald Trump said he thought the Israelis were doing very well. I think he's right, but of course he would have a lot more confidential information than you and I do. I think that Israel, in my amateur view, overperformed. They did a lot of the heavy bombing, including with bunker buster bombs, that I thought only the Americans could do. And I thought that Iran was so built up it would need American help. And as you pointed out, Israel managed to do it. Donald Trump can say to his base, some of which is isolationist, he can say there wasn't any boots on the ground. We weren't quite neutral, but neither were we active in it. Donald Trump can say, I didn't start a war, which is important to a part of his support base, isn't it?
It is very important, but 2 points. First, the one thing the Israelis have not, as far as we know, attacked is Fardau, which is the single most important Iranian nuclear facility, and it is inside a mountain. And it would take more than what the Israelis have now to destroy it. And that would probably require American sorties, not Israeli ones. And secondly, we don't know if the Iranians can hold back from attacking American interests, American troops, American installations. I think they're so convinced themselves that the United States is a paper tiger that it will be hard to restrain, if not the top leadership, at least some of the military hierarchy, from going ahead and attacking Americans. So it's not over. It could well be that the Iranians do attack Americans and the Americans do attack Iran.
Iran is a huge country population-wise. I think it's coming up on 100 million people. So
Right.
it's a much larger entity. It's geographically quite large. It's different than taking out Hezbollah or even Hamas or even the Houthis. Like it's just so large and it's got a lot of inertia to it. Israel's had an amazing first week, shall we say, but as you point out, there are some hard targets that haven't been touched. And apparently the supreme leader of Iran himself has not been targeted by Israel. Perhaps it would be too provocative for them to assassinate him. As Israel degrades Iran's ability to lob these missiles, as it takes out more terrorist leaders, what happens next? Neither America nor Israel are into regime change. I think that has to come from Iran. I don't think either has the force to make it happen. I think America's out of the nation building business. What happens next? Does Iran just sort of become chastened and weakened and slouch onwards? Or is there some, like, for example, the descendants of the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, is there a move to bring back the king? What happens next?
Well, the Israelis have made it clear that their goal is not only to take out nuclear infrastructure, but to damage the region itself. Earlier today, the Israelis knocked out the television building in Tehran. And indeed, there's some really rather amusing footage of an anchor inveighing against the Zionists and then fleeing her chair as the ceiling starts to fall in on her. So that's not about nuclear weapons. That's about disabling the regime and encouraging the population of Iran to rise up and get rid of it. So if you can't attack all those nuclear installations, an alternative is to open the path for Iranians to rise up against the regime that has dominated their lives for 46 years now. It's also worth noting that while all of us expected the Israelis to reach the western portions of Iran, to go through Syria and Iraq more or less unmolested, and indeed be able to refuel their planes over those countries, it comes as a real surprise to learn that the Israelis have gone so far as Mashhad. Mashhad is at the extreme east. It's close to the Turkmenistan and Afghanistan borders. It is very far away from Israel. So the Israelis have control over the entirety, what appears to be the entirety of the Iranian airspace. They can do what they want. And it looks like what they want to do, in addition to the nuclear facilities, is knock out the stalwart institutions of the regime, such as the media network and the police and other important regime assets.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm in Toronto, which is a real battleground of anti-Semitism, frankly, and Iran is on both sides of the battle. There are Iran-funded agents provocateurs in Toronto who rally every week. Toronto is infamous for its Al-Quds Day festivities. But on the other hand, there's a lot of Persian Canadians who hate the Ayatollahs who actually show up in solidarity with the Jews. And I think it's the same way in other Persian expat communities like in Vancouver and Los Angeles and places like that. So Iran really has a large diaspora, many of whom fled the Ayatollah, others who are here to undermine the West. Is there a movement among the Persian diaspora to go and try and help retake their country? I saw a bit of that when Kurdistan was trying to become independent. I saw sort of Kurds around the world go back home to try and help. Is that a animating idea in Persians around the world to take back Iran?
There certainly is a considerable diaspora that wishes to take advantage of this opportunity and get rid of the Islamic Republic of Iran. There are also, as you point out, this regime allies in the West. I can't give you a percentage breakdown. They both seem formidable. They both are very active. I think you mentioned the Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi. He has emerged in the last few years as a far more serious leader than he was. I met him some 20 years ago, 25 years ago, indeed. And he was somewhat of a fringe figure. Now he's important. And he has become something of a rallying symbol, and more than a symbol, a figure of importance in himself, somebody who can make decisions. So I think there is a diaspora that is potentially able to, it has money, so it is able to invest, it is able to encourage, it is able to send messages. There is a considerable media empire in Los Angeles beaming messages to Iran. So yeah, it's important.